welcome back to Army Wife Life. Today we are going to be doing a military spouse Q&A. We're going to go over all the questions that you guys asked me about what it's like to be an Army wife and about what it's like to be a military family in general. Also, I'm going to go over some assumptions you guys have about what military families are like and what military spouses are like. So I took to Instagram and I'm going to be answering all your guys' questions that you answered me on there when I asked. And yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so the first question I have says, if your husband is deployed, what does that mean for you and your little one? So this is a very common question and something that I get asked a lot. It obviously is like the biggest thing that hovers over military families is the possibility of deployment, and it does make that harder when you have children. So if my husband was to get deployed before my due date, they would send him back within 72 hours, I believe, of my due date. If I wanted to labor early, they would get him on a flight, the first flight out as soon as they can during the first signs of labor. So in terms of what would happen to me and the baby if he was gone while I was in labor, that's what would happen. And if, you know, if we already had the baby, he was deployed, this is a question that a lot of military spouses have to ask themselves. So when your spouse gets deployed, you can go home and like be around your family, or you can stay at the duty station you're currently assigned to. It's a personal choice, but if your husband's going to be gone longer than 90 days, you can break any lease as long as he's leaving military orders. And a lot of people will choose to go home and be around their family for those months. They're going to be alone to help with kids and just, you know, moral support. Most people will end up staying at the duty station because their kids are enrolled in school, or they have a job, or it's just easier to not have to pack up their things and then move back once their husband gets back. But it is an option to go home and be around family and friends while you're missing that one key part of your own intimate family. So yeah, personally, I would love to go home if my husband was gone, just because I am so far away in Hawaii, but it is a bit harder when you're all the way here because you can't drive and you have to ship your things. So if my husband was to get deployed, I would definitely ask all my family members to take turns visiting me and the baby, but I would probably stay put just because of the duty station that we are located at. But just know that you do have the option to go if you'd like. Okay, question number 2 is, what is the biggest obstacle you face being a military wife, and how do I manage it? I think the hardest obstacle that I personally face, like just because of my personality, is like I can't plan anything. The military is always changing, so you can have like the best plan down to a T, and last minute things could go awry and change, and their dates can change, or their location could change, and it's just, you really can't plan, and I'm a huge planner. So how I get over that is I just have tried the past 3 years to be a lot more like go with the flow. It's definitely been hard, but just because of my personality, that is my biggest obstacle. I think the biggest obstacle in general for me though, like in the long run, is that everything in the military is kind of temporary, so you can't really like settle down or like make a super long plan. Everything in 3 years, you're going to be up and gone again. So jobs are temporary, friends, being around them is temporary, your house is temporary. So everything's only going to last 3 years, and then you have to start all over. So in the longevity of things, it's that everything's temporary, and in like the short sight is that you can't really plan. The biggest thing for most spouses though is the chances of deployment, I think, and the way that they cope with that. I would say make sure you have a lot of support system, like back home and where you're stationed. Have a lot of friends, reach out to FRG and places like that to have some support if you need it while your husband's gone, and always stay informed on what's happening with your husband's unit, and stay in touch with the news just so you can kind of get a feel of like what's going on, and just prepare yourself always. This one is an assumption. People assume that all military families are rich, and this one is definitely not true. I mean, Military service members make a normal income, they make a medium household income, and just like any other job, you start off making low when you're a private, you don't make a lot of money, but as you get promoted and you reach new ranks, you're obviously gonna get paid more. So it works just like any other career field, like you're gonna get promoted and you're gonna earn more based on how well you perform and if you can get promoted. Actually, the harder part of the military is if you aren't good enough to get promoted, you actually have to get out of the military. In other jobs, you can just stay where you're at for the rest of your career and nothing's gonna happen. You're just gonna keep making the same pay and you're gonna keep your job. But in the military, you actually have to be promotable. So we are not rich. People assume that because we get like housing allowance, that we get like our house is paid for, but that's actually just a part of a normal paycheck. Like without that, most families would not be able to afford housing. So the housing allowance is just the military's way of saying, hey, we think you should spend this much on a house. You don't have to, but if you're living on post, they're gonna take all of that from you. But they basically break it up into how they think you should be spending your money to help you like budget, but it's not like they pay for whatever house you want to live in, and there's requirements, and you only get a certain amount of money based on your rank and you know how many people are living with you, so and how long you've been in. So it's just like any other job. You get paid what you deserve, and you know when these guys are working 24-hour shifts and they're working like 7 days a week straight, not coming home, they're not getting paid overtime either. So for the amount of work they do, I would say that they get compensated like a normal person, maybe even a little less because of the hours they work. But not all military families are rich just because we get a housing allowance. It's just the military's way of trying to help us like break up everything to be financially stable. Okay, this one's another assumption. It says all wives are dependas. If you don't know what a dependa is, it's like a nickname, I guess, or kind of like an insult, like you're dependent, completely dependent on your husband, and that they can't do anything. They just sit at home and don't do anything. This is not true. I think almost all of the military wives that I've met have jobs, and they're like working and they're bringing in income. And other wives that I know are moms who are stay-at-home moms, and stay-at-home mom is a full-time job, like a full-time job. And it's very hard to get childcare on post, so they're not dependas, they're not just sitting around on the couch spending their husband's money. Like they work, or they're taking care of the house, or they're just being their husband's support system. You know, some families make the choice that their husbands are going to support them, and they like that, and it's a traditional lifestyle, and there's nothing wrong with your husband wanting to take care of you, and then there's nothing wrong with you wanting to work too. There's a bunch of stay-at-home moms or stay-at-home wives who aren't in the military who don't get this kind of like weird persona that they're a dependa. It's just, you know, also sometimes it's hard to find jobs when you're moving around every 3 years, or you're trying to finish school moving all the time. So not all wives are dependas. It's not true. Most of them work, or most of them are taking care of their babies. And then along with that, it says people marry for BAH. So this is also not true. I mean, maybe in some cases, but every couple that I've met did not get married just so they can get BAH. If you're not married and you're not an E6 in the Army at least, you have to live in the barracks if you're a single soldier. So people say that single soldiers will just get married just to get out of the barracks, and I don't really think that's true because one, you have a lot more responsibilities when you have a house. So I mean, getting married is just not, you just don't get extra money. You have a house, you have a wife, you have, you know, a lot of more bills. So people aren't just getting married to get the extra money because it's gonna be spent on your house anyways, rather than just living in the barracks and not having a paper house. So there's that. And also too, if you really, really want us to get out of the barracks that badly, you can always ask your chain of command to allow you to live off, like out of the barracks, if you're under an E6. So, I mean, if someone really, really wanted to get out of the barracks that bad, I don't think they would result into marrying someone just to get out. They could always ask their chain of command, because marriage is a lifetime commitment, and you'll only be in the barracks until you're E6, or if you can get that letter from higher ups. So, and I'm pretty sure the Navy and the Air Force have even like younger standards for living out of the barracks. The Army is like the longest one that I know. You can. Okay, the next question is that moving around will be hard on me and my daughter. And if you don't know, I am having a girl, so we're having a daughter. But I mean, yeah, that is true. It will be hard, you know, packing up and saying bye to friends, and, you know, having to move is just stressful in general, like packing up your house and unpacking it and finding a new school and stuff. But I've met a lot of people who were like military children, and they say, you know, like it was hard leaving friends, but at the end of the day, they have more friends from all over the country that they have because they did move around, and they got to experience a lot more at such a young age than kids who stayed in the same town their whole lives did. So no matter where they go, they had friends in a bunch of states, and they got to experience like living on the East Coast, living in the South, living in Hawaii. Some people get to live in Germany or Italy. So it does provide a unique experience for kids, I think, growing up, because not a lot of kids get to travel that much when they're young, but it can definitely be difficult. My plan for that is just, if we are moving around a lot when she's like in school and stuff, just to, you know, have an open dialogue with her and really make sure that she knows that no matter where we move, she's at least going to have me and her dad and any other future siblings she's going to have, and, you know, that will help her make friends, and sports and stuff will help her get into the groove. But it's a lot of parenting, I think, too, just making sure you're there for your kid and you know how they're feeling. So that's just our plan, is just make sure that we're always talking to her and that she's okay, and figuring out the best ways for her personality-wise to adjust and acclimate to every new duty station, and to help encourage her to make friends. So it will be stressful. I'm not saying it's going to be an easy breezy, but it's definitely something that if you like work together as a family, it'll be easier to adjust to and acclimate to. Another question I have is, do we get to pick where we live? Yes and no. Every time your spouse comes up for reenlistment, you can put in a request for the next duty station. It is not a guarantee you're going to get it, and even if you do, like they say you're going to get it, it can change at the last minute, and you can end up like somewhere completely different. So you definitely have to are able to voice what you would like, and hopefully you get it. If not, you know, it's kind of what you sign up for. You have to go where they send you, where they need you. If they don't need you at that duty station, they're not just going to send you there because they want you there. But if there is an opening there, they're going to try their best to get you there. So yes and no, you can request, but it's not a guarantee. And even if they tell you yes, it might change a week before you leave. I've seen it happen. I've heard stories. But personally for us, my husband did request Hawaii, and he got it because there was an opening for the time he needed to come here and his rank. So those are two criteria, and your MOS. There has to be an opening in all three of those positions: time, MOS, and rank. So as long as it fits all that criteria, the Army will probably do their best to get you there, but nothing is a guarantee in the Army, even how long you're going to be there. So yes and no. The question is it hard to make friends with other military spouses? Are they mean? I think that's just another like stereotype that Army spouses get, that they're like standoffish or rude. I feel like you get that with people in general. Like, people can be rude, but for the majority, like, people are pretty friendly and they're all going through the same thing. For the most part, I would actually say that military wives are shy more than anything. You know, they're trying to make friends too, and it's kind of awkward, and like you're not in school or you're not like working like at a job with everyone. Like, it's just like you kind of have to like go out of your way to meet friends at like the supermarket or at FRG meetings. Like, you're not in school anymore, so it's not just like you're around people all the time. Like, if you're working, you really make your friends at work because you're at work all the time. But otherwise, you're at your house, and like people are just gonna magically show up. So you have to really like put yourself outside of your comfort zone and go and meet people. So I'm gonna do a whole video on that, I think in 2 weeks maybe, on like tips I have for making friends at duty stations. But I wouldn't say that other Army spouses are like rude or standoffish when it comes to making friends. I would just say that they're shy. And it's hard to make friends as an adult than it is as a kid. So it's just like that awkward, everyone's kind of nervous. Everyone wants friends but doesn't know how to make friends type of deal. So yeah, I would say they're not rude, they're just shy. Okay, and like one of the biggest, most annoying questions that I have is that, and so that's kind of an assumption kind of question, is do people just marry for the benefits? Like, do we just marry our husbands who are enlisted for the benefits? Not at all. I mean, this lifestyle is so hard, and I don't think anyone would do it just for insurance. People who have regular jobs get insurances from their full-time jobs, and they can add family members on. So it's not like you only get insurance if you're in the military. Like most jobs, like my dad's job covered insurance for me, all my siblings, and my mom. Like, and he was not in the military. Like most jobs have insurance where you can add your dependents. The military does it too, and it's more well known, I think, and like obvious that you get it. It's a guarantee. But I don't think anyone would sign up to move every 3 years and not be away from family and like have to deal with their husband being gone all the time just for like free health care, and I don't even know like what other benefits there would be. Like there's a GI Bill for your husband, and if they want to pass that to you, they can, but most wives I know won't even take the GI Bill from their husbands because they worked for that. So the only like benefit they're getting would be insurance, and most people, like I had insurance before I met my husband, so even if we weren't married, I would like still have my own insurance. So that's like a big like misconception, and the answer to that question is no, people don't just get married for the benefits, because there's more like hard cons to deal with than there are like benefits pay wise and insurance wise. So I would say no, people do not do that, and it is a huge misconception, and people get married because they love each other. Okay, the next question we have is that everyone in the military gets married super young, or right out of high school. There are a lot of young married couples, I'm not gonna lie, but I think being in the military makes you grow up faster than it would like typical kids your age. You're working a full-time job, you know, you have responsibilities, you're like in charge of like important things, and you're moving like away from your hometown, you're getting a break, and you're not reliant on your parents anymore at all, like you're your own individual. So I feel like a 19-year-old in the military is gonna be a lot more mature and ready for life and ready for marriage than a 19-year-old freshman in college who, you know, has a different lifestyle. So people do tend to get married younger, I think, because they're just ready for the next step in life, because they have a full-time job, they have, you know, this new sense of responsibility that they like obtain through like basic training and like having all these new profound like thoughts in their head and ways of life. So I feel like people get married young because they're more ready for it, not because they want to, but because they can financially do it, they like mentally can do it, and they just feel older than they are. Like people all the time cannot believe how old I am when I say that I'm like so young, because I just act a little bit older, and I just feel like it's because this lifestyle makes you grow up so much faster than you would not in this lifestyle. But people also get married like because they love each other and they want to start the rest of their lives together. This one says, how long is your husband gone, and how often is he gone? So this can range. My husband is personally in the infantry, so he trains a lot more than other jobs. So he's gone training. It can be anywhere from every other month for like 2 weeks at a time to here for 2 months, gone for 3 months. It just depends on what like schools, what training events, and any deployments he has coming up. The best way that we know is we go to the FRG meetings, and they lay out their schedule, and yeah, they just tell us like what's happening, what to expect, and it can range. But my husband personally, because the field he works in is infantry, he's gone a lot of the time just because that's his job. Very hands-on, very like into like they call it the field, like when they're out and like living in the wilderness, shooting guns and practicing, like that is what he does. So he personally is gone training a lot, and that's just to, you know, prepare themselves and to learn new skills and trades. So, and go to schools and deployment and all that kind of stuff. So my husband is gone like either every other month, or he'll be gone for 3 months, home for like 2. So that's just my personal experience with it. Every like MOS or job title is different, and every unit's different. And the last question I have is, do I like being a military spouse? I love being a military spouse because I love my husband. I adore him. Whether he was in the military or not, I just love being a spouse. I love being married, and I love him. So being his partner in life is definitely like my biggest blessing, and I couldn't be happier. Being a military spouse is also pretty amazing. It's a really hard job that not a lot of people can swallow. So I'm happy that I can hold down the fort here at home for him when he's gone, and I feel like it's a little piece of me gets to do something for the country, to have, you know, be able to support my husband and encourage him to protect us and protect our rights. So, and that is interesting, moving around and meeting all these people. It's given me a lot of new perspective on life, and it's given me a lot of independence and a lot of just experience. So I would say I do enjoy being a military spouse, and my husband makes it more enjoyable. It is stressful, it is overwhelming sometimes, and sometimes I absolutely hate it. But overall, it's been a pretty great ride, and I'm really happy and proud to find myself a military spouse. So yeah. And that's all for this week. So I will see you guys next week. I will be doing a military house tour. So many people asked about like on-post housing and stuff, so I just figured I'd make a whole nother video on that, and I would go through my house. I live on a military installation, so I figured I would show you guys what the houses look like on post, and yeah, you guys can follow along with me. If you have any questions, additional questions, leave them in the comments below. Please like this video and subscribe if you aren't already, and let me know what you guys want to see in the future, what topics I can cover. And follow me on social media to keep up with my day-to-day life. And I will see you guys next Friday.